Hello and welcome to another episode of the To Baldly Go podcast, and thank you for joining me on my mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to baldly go where so many have gone before. My name is Aaron, and I am watching Star Trek for the first time, then discussing with my wife Abbie and our friend Nate. This week, we will be discussing the next 3 episodes of Star Trek The Next Generation 11001001, Too Short a Season, and When the Bough Breaks. Now, prepare to leave orbit. Engage. So, should we jump into the next 3 episodes?
Let's do it.
All right, we'll start out with, according to IMDb, episode 14. And this is one that I had to keep looking back to know what the title was.
I will concede your on the episode numbers, by the way.
All right.
I was digging around and I don't know why I even thought of it, but I was like, what does Wikipedia use as a numbering scheme? And it matches IMDb. So we'll just say that
he knew you were going to go check Wikipedia, so Aaron wouldn't update the information on Wikipedia right before you looked.
Oh, you don't know when I actually looked. So
yeah,
I updated it at about 11 o'clock last Wednesday, so I knew that it was coming.
Fair enough.
Can you see who made the updates? It's like a little TBG.
Yeah.
TBG pod.
But I thought I would just concede that point.
Fair enough. Like so many times, I win Star Trek. So this week's first episode, the Enterprise docks at a starbase for repairs where it is commandeered by a race of technologically linked aliens intent on using the vessel for their own purposes in 11001001.
I'll go first on this one.
All right.
Yep.
I gave it a 7. I gave it a 7.
Yep.
Wasn't terrible. I found it kind of boring at times. And I don't love a little interlude with Riker and the thing. But I found it intriguing. The concept was intriguing. Why didn't you, because, why didn't they ask for help? Why did they hijack it? The fact they could hijack a starship is crazy. First of all, I loved you were talking about this last week, Nate, about Brett Spiner's on and how he portrays data. I love that authoritative data like that. On behalf of Captain Picard, get off the ship right now. We're doing this, not a drill. We're moving. I am making this call. I am next in command. Move your butts.
Yep.
Loved that scene. It was so well done on there. And how slow they were to kind of figure it out. But I don't know. I thought it was interesting. It wouldn't be when I want to go rewatch that one right now, but if it was on in the background, I wouldn't be upset about it, I guess is how I was judging that for it. Yeah, that's my take. I gave it what did I say, 7.5?
Yep. 7.
Yeah, 7. I was between 7 and 7.5, but I'm gonna stick with 7, I think. So
yeah, I agree. I give it a 7. This is one of those episodes that I've typically enjoyed. I think it is an interesting storyline. It is dumb in moments, but I think the plot itself is interesting and kind of different from the normal stuff that they oftentimes do. And just, I don't know, world building, and I will forever be happy anytime we meet a new alien race that doesn't look like humans again. And granted, they're humanoid, human form.
These are just short humans.
They're just the little people. But still, at least it shows that there's some level of I don't know, diversity in the universe. It's not everyone looks like us. And even just the idea that they exist in pairs, which is
that is cool.
Obviously we live in a society where it is very typical for people to couple up, get married and all that stuff. But this is kind of a different spin on that, right? And kind of seeing that linkage, and I go back and forth on whether speaking in binary is more efficient or not. But that just might be my electrical engineering background, and I could convince myself either way. So at times it bugged me, and at other times it's like, yeah, it's actually pretty cool. Hard to tell. So that's my take on it.
Emery?
All right. My, I guess, somewhat controversial take on this one is that I've been largely underwhelmed by season one so far. Not that it's bad, I just think it's been a bunch of just okay episodes. And I grant that most season one of shows are fairly finding their footing. They're not where they end up being. And I grant that for this series as well. So in that regard, season one really has been about what I would expect, hoping for more. As we've said, pleasantly surprised by how good season one of the original series was, and so far find that stronger than this season. With that said, I think this is the best episode we've seen yet. I felt that it was somewhere between good and great, and I just decided to own it and say I think this episode's an 8. With some, I guess I might say, criticism. Like the early scenes in the holodeck felt like they dragged on forever. And this is, as I've brought up so many times, I think that issue of network television. They have to hit their commercial breaks at the right times, and that means they need to get their story to those break points at the right times and all of that. And I felt that that's where this episode suffered or struggled, I think fits exactly that. So those earlier scenes in the episode when they were on the holodeck with Riker and then even with Picard in there a bit just felt like it lasted forever. Aside from that, I thought this was a great episode. So I really enjoyed it. I thought the story was fairly tight. It didn't feel forced. They came to a resolution that made sense. The explanations they gave, I thought, all added up. Yeah, I just overall just felt it was if we had a really good rating and I gave half points, I would have probably gone about 7.6, so I round up to an 8.
Oh.
I really enjoyed this one.
It's not too far off from us.
No,
I just have liked others where
No,
you haven't liked others.
I was saying
Yeah.
my controversy was basically saying to this point, the season has been kind of just okay.
I think I need to pause for a minute. Let me get Greg on the phone. He's got to say some harsh
Well, I
words
mean,
to
yeah,
you
this one I'm sure is a 10 and a
about.
half.
Yeah. I'm
Rich,
okay with
this one a
that.
40.
I never thought of season one of Next Gen to be anything other than just kind of okay. Like
Right.
for all the reasons that you already said, right?
Yep.
They're finding their footing, you're developing characters. There are missteps. There are some real diamonds in the rough in this season, and I think this is one of them. I think it's a good episode. It is nowhere near some of the worst episodes we've seen.
Oh,
14
no,
episodes.
not at all.
Right?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was fun. You got to see some just good stuff. I thought overall it was just a strong episode. They had good interactions with the characters. You see Data and Geordi, they were really good together. That was a lot of fun. Then you get some good Picard and Riker scenes figuring out what's going on and dealing with all of that. I just yeah, it was a thoroughly enjoyable episode.
I'm really curious as we continue to get to the series, how you feel about the holodeck in general. If those scenes continue to drag on for you, or if this is kind of a one-off, or it'd be interesting to kind of informally track that, because I don't know that I have the same opinion. I don't feel like they drug on for me. Again, to me, it's sort of world building. It's learning more about how that technology works by kind of supercharging what it can do.
Yeah.
And but I also, grew up with this show. So I think I have blinders on for some of those things that, other people might find irritating.
Yeah, and I think it was really just an early scene. I'm looking at the transcript now, and there's a scene in the holodeck, and then a bit on the bridge, and then a long scene in the Bourbon Street bar. And I feel
Mhm.
like that was probably the scene where Riker was playing the trombone, and that
Yep. They're giving him
looked
grief.
looked odd. Um, and I know there is some trivia on that, but yeah, that was the only thing that pulled me out of it, and it just felt like it went on a little too long. So where I would be more interested, I guess, is less, well, I mean, interested in as the series progresses, how I feel about those. But then if the holodeck is something that they have in any of the series on the streaming platforms,
Mhm.
because that's where I'd be interested to see the differences where they don't necessarily have those time constraints. And as I've talked about, it seems so many times that if they if there aren't those time constraints and they can just tell the story that needs to be told and they don't have to hit certain marks at certain times,
Yep.
that opens up a lot of freedom that they don't have. And I know I talked about it last week. I've been listening to that Parks and Recollection podcast, and they talk about that a lot. How as they're writing, I mean, they're on episode 14. They wrote this, I would imagine, as the season is being filmed. And so
Mhm.
they're filming, they're editing, they're doing all of this and writing new episodes at the same time, and they're on a deadline to get this done so then they can move on to the next episode. And they did what, 26 episodes in season one? I mean, that's that's a lot.
That doesn't happen in.
That's that no, it doesn't. I mean, they're making on these streaming platforms a long season is 13
Yep.
and most seasons are like 8. So it's a different world now when we watch new TV shows. So, and I think that might be why I gave this an 8, because I was like, okay, I thought this was a really good episode. And given that it's the middle of the season and what was probably going on to even get this made, makes it that much more impressive that it was as good as it was. So
Yeah.
who knows how long I will maintain that way of thinking, but at least for this week, given what I've been listening to outside of watching Star Trek, it gave me a different appreciation for what they were able to do. And they've said on that Parks and Recollection podcast a number of times, if you think something is good or great, you have no idea how great it really is to get that good on a show being produced in this way.
Right. It's an art.
So touching back to the holodeck comment that you gave, and I think Nate, you commented too. So I was thinking about why we've had so many holodeck episodes, because I don't remember there being that many. And now you're right. There have been, it's been addressed in most episodes at this point.
Yep.
And I drew the correlation to in the old series, original series, the they had away missions to different places, different planets. And our core people that we watched was on every one of those away missions. It made no sense half the time. Why is Yeoman Rand down on this random
Yeah.
planet when she's delivering coffee or letters? But she's there, right? So they had to find a new way. And I'm sure the writer sat in a room, they're like, we got to find a way to get these families now to have a reason to be on the planet, because we can't push that envelope any further, right? We can't make them go down to a planet unless it's always a friendly planet. We don't always want that. So how are we gonna, how are we gonna get all our people to experience all the things that's still being safe? So I thought it was very clever that they came up with that concept. And they say so much of our technology is based off of Star Trek now at this point that, the writers thought of it, and then IT and the computer people were like, yeah, let's make it.
Yeah, we're
Cell
all nerds.
phones
We're
have
gonna
been
do
directly,
it.
yeah, we can make that happen. Why not? So I just keep waiting for the holodecks to be created based on that, and transporters and everything like that. But the concept of the holodeck was so new.
Mhm.
Like the concept you could walk into something and have the environment rendered to your liking without leaving your home had to be such a novel concept at that time. Of course, they're going to show it in every episode as much as they can and utilize it. So I don't know. I even watching it through now, the holodeck doesn't bother me, but I don't know it's because I recognize how vital it'll be in the future to some very significant episodes, movies, so on and so forth. But it's interesting you noted it so directly. But yeah, we have had what, 3 or 4 holodeck episodes in a row.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't think all of the holodeck stuff was necessarily bad or even dragged on. It was just the one particular scene early on. I felt like it just, they could have wrapped it up a little faster and moved on. But then, given time constraints, they really couldn't. Possibly.
So funny story. Not kind of relevant. So when they put me under on Tuesday, you dream on propofol or whatever it is, whatever the anesthesia they gave me for the procedure. Right. So I woke up and I was like, did I dream that? And I had to look up, can you dream on that medicine? You do. I dreamt I was at the airport and I saw Jonathan Frakes.
Yep.
He's sitting in a chair and he's reading his Kindle at the airport. And I happen to remember, I looked up, I was like, that's him, right? So I looked it up, double check, and it happened to be his birthday. And I offered him coffee, like to buy him coffee or a drink for his birthday. And he came and he chatted with me at the bar for like 2 hours before our flight. It was the greatest knockout from anesthesia ever. It was great. I really wish it was real because that would have been so awesome. And I didn't even ask him for a picture. He asked me. I was like, I didn't want to make it feel like you had to work today on your birthday. I was so
did you
polite.
ask
I was
him
a
to come
very
on the
polite
podcast?
fan.
Yeah. Did you ask him to come on the podcast?
They woke me up too soon. I didn't get that far. Sorry.
I have never.
If you're listening, if you're listening, sir, I dreamt about you. It's meant to be.
Aaron, I'd be worried.
Mm-hmm.
I said, Aaron, I would be worried.
So I
Awkward silence.
I'm sitting there.
I don't have a whole lot more on this episode. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I thought it was a fairly tight-knit story. They wrapped everything up and it didn't feel like it was super forced the way other episodes have been. There was this danger that they had to address all imminent throughout the episode, and it worked, I thought, really well.
I find it interesting that you aren't talking more about Data's character development in this episode.
Yes. But you love Brent Spiner and Data more than Aaron does at this point. So that's probably why you recognize it more.
For sure. But a theme that we've talked about in almost every episode is is Data human? And this is another episode that tries to explore that in not even really a B plot, but more like a, offhand scenes here and there. And you didn't talk about that like at all.
Yeah, I wonder if I was not taking notes as I watched this. I just watched it and jotted down notes after so I didn't necessarily take notes on too many details like that. Though I did notice Data is left-handed. I noticed and made note of that. But yeah, I thought
you
it
and Nate
was
are too, right?
Yeah.
Nate is too.
Yep. So I thought it was good. I thought it was good with Data just kind of taking charge when he needed to, and just
there's that. But so I think that's interesting too. But there's the painting thing, the exploration of can Data be creative? And I thought, again,
and
really
the guilt. He had guilt afterwards.
And the guilt
when he was being distracted.
But the idea that Geordi is working with Data to explore a creative side, I think that's super interesting. Again, when you look at like today's AI and can it be creative, or is it just this amalgamation of a bunch of different sources that mashes together in random ways and outputs something, right? But that's, I mean, I think a really interesting exploration of his character of he is a machine. Can he be creative? Can he create art out of nothing? Or is it just a regurgitation of an, encyclopedia of artistic knowledge that's just downloaded to his brain?
Yeah, and I guess that's something that if I'm watching it not taking active notes, that kind of wasn't something that jumped out to me
For
as
sure.
being major in this episode. Yet when you start talking about it, then I remember a line Riker had that I look up now and I
Yep.
thought was great. And when he was talking about how they should keep some notes on what they were doing. And Geordi says, "Really?" And he says, "Well, of course. Think about it. A blind man teaching an android how to paint. That's got to be
Yep.
worth a couple of pages in somebody's book."
I laughed really hard at that. And then my notes on it was that funny? Was that inappropriate? Was it both? Like,
Yeah.
that was a great
It's like a
line.
dig. Yeah.
It was kind of funny though.
But
But it
at the
was
same time, it yes, he can see through that visor, but it is kind of an interesting notion that a blind person is directing a machine or an android in how to paint something.
yep, for sure. So I just think that exploration continues to be interesting. You know, and I will continue to be fascinated by world building and character building in all of these shows. And it's just that was almost a throwaway scene. It did nothing to
Hmm.
advance the plot, the A or the B plot in any way, shape, or form. But it was a fun little scene, and there's a little follow-up scene to it later. Um, but that's it was cool. The only other thing that I kind of had that bugged me a little bit um was that they said that the biners said the reason they were doing what they were doing was that they had this central computer and there was a supernova that sent out an electromagnetic pulse that fried their computer. So they're trying to put the data back, right? That's the high level gist of it. And my next thought was, why wouldn't a supernova have just like wiped out their planet? Like
I
traditionally,
thought
when you
that
think
too.
of a supernova, like that's the end of that solar system. Like everything is gone.
We've discussed
Not
this.
just
That's the end of that star system.
okay, you're right. My apologies. That is the end of that star system.
What
Those
about
planets,
just so they were trying to say it more like it was an EMP,
yeah,
but they
they're
were
just
saying it was like an EMP, right? Though.
yeah. But it was a
Mm.
supernova that caused an EMP that fried their computer, and they don't.
Maybe the supernova was way far away and only the EMP made.
I thought of that, and that's how I'm choosing to explain it to myself. It still doesn't make any sense.
Or is this just an instance like we've thought, or at least like I've thought before, where they're just like, we need to say something that sounds kind of sciency.
Let's throw this shit at the wall and see what happens.
And saying super so and that's something that kind of makes sense and I can we'll say forgive in some instances because in reading the making of Star Trek book where there's interviews with Gene Roddenberry and these different just really going through the production of the original series, he talks about how there are certain things that when you're making a television show, you need to do that aren't necessarily scientifically correct. So
Right.
instead of having silence as the Enterprise goes by, they have a whoosh sound because that gets
Yeah.
people to buy into it. If they're traveling at warp speed or whatever, they show the stars going by like
Yeah.
stretched out,
Which is
which
not how
is
it happened.
unlikely, not what they would see. So they do some of those things because if they do it scientifically accurately, you lose some of the audience.
Yeah.
So maybe they just say supernova because people understand that's a big thing. catastrophic and all of that, instead of going into some explanation of sending off some EMP that wiped everything out and did that. So maybe it could be something that's kind of like, oh, somebody was dumb and just said like, oh, this sounds sciency, or it could be that somebody said, well, this is close enough.
Yep.
And enough people will buy what we're doing.
I'm willing to forgive it. Like, it didn't hurt my rating. I stand by my 7. I think if they had explained it differently in a way that would have made more sense to me, it probably wouldn't have increased my rating at all. I think everything leading up to that was just fine. And I'm willing to just kind of overlook it and throw it away because nothing's perfect. But it did, for that kind of split second, take me out of it and go, that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
But that's about all I had on it.
Yeah. I did now that you're talking, before this, when we were talking a little bit about Data, as I'm looking at the transcript of the episode a little bit more, I did like when Data paused before he and Geordi left and said, like, he knew something seemed off because the captain would be the last one to leave. So something's not right that he's not there. And then he just says, yeah, this is curious. And then Geordi's saying, hey, still, we got to go.
Yeah.
And then he says, I think we're the last. And Data says, I hope we are. I thought that was
They don't have a choice if they aren't, though.
Yeah,
because at that point, I mean,
I think that was the right call. They didn't, as far as they knew, Riker and Picard were off the ship, and that everyone else had left. They were the last two. Got to get off. Got to get that basically floating bomb out of space dock and as far away from it as possible. Because if that thing goes off, it's pretty catastrophic. So get the hell out.
So
right
now, part of the issue in this episode was the malfunctioning. The holodeck kind of malfunctioned again, didn't it? Or was that the Binars put some code in there?
Binars forced it to malfunction.
So was it part of that prevented them from seeing Picard and Riker on the holodeck? Or once you go on the holodeck, do you disappear from
it was
the Enterprise version of the Marauders?
The Binars.
Yeah, the
Binars did it
so that no one would know they were still on the ship.
That's what I thought.
At the end of the day,
because they needed them on the they needed on the ship.
Somebody left on the ship to finish what was going on, because they knew what would happen, right? They knew by the time they got back to the planet they would be unconscious.
And then they wanted Riker because he was the one that they basically drew in there, and then was Picard just a happy accident?
I think Picard was ancillary, right?
Yeah. But yeah, great episode. I really enjoyed it. Sounds like I should go revisit it to pick up on the stuff that, now that we talk about it, I remember, but in the moment immediately after, kind of lost over. But
Abbie, do
you have any trivia?
Beat me to it.
I don't on this one.
Okay. I have some trivia from IMDb that's kind of interesting.
Okay.
So Jonathan Frakes is actually able to play the trombone. He's been able to play since he was 9 years old.
Nice.
However, in this one, they wanted it to sound a little more professional, so they hired a session musician to overdub his playing and made zero effort to match it to the actual visual of him playing the trombone. So it makes no sense whatsoever. So he's moving the slide and it's not the right notes and all that stuff. So that was fun. Let's see, the computer voice that informed various decks of what transporters to use to get off the ship. That was voiced by Michael Dorn, aka Worf. I noticed it was a male voice and I did not catch that it was him. This episode won an Emmy in the category of Outstanding Sound Editing for a Series in 1988. Let's see here. The episode was originally intended to be filmed and aired before The Big Goodbye, with the latter's holodeck malfunction explained as having been caused by the Binar's modification, which actually could have been kind of a cool tie-in.
Yeah.
The other thing that they reference is that, they've returned to space dock for computer upgrades. And that was something that they mentioned 2 episodes earlier, that they were delayed getting back to space dock for computer upgrades. So starting to see some of those like little more subtle tie-ins between episodes.
Little threads going through connecting the episodes beyond just the characters. I like that.
Yep.
Even if I'm not picking up on it necessarily.
Let's see here. This is the first time that Wesley Crusher has the bridge. So for a period of time, he's actually in command. This is a lot of pressure and responsibility to put on a 16-ish-year-old child prodigy. But let's see. So the number, this is kind of interesting, and it threads several pieces of tree together. The episode is called 11001001, right?
Mm-hmm.
So each of the binars had names that we didn't really hear.
I knew one of them was 10 and one was 01, so presumably the others were 11 and 00.
Yep. So it's also if you convert that from binary to decimal, it's 201. When they stopped the auto destruct countdown, it was at 2 minutes and 1 seconds. If you convert it to basically what was called an opcode for programming, it means unconditional return. So basically go back to where you were. And the binaries talk about returning their data to their computer. 11.001001, if you convert that from binary to decimal, is roughly pi. 3.140625. Let's see. I think that's the gist of it. But there was a lot of stuff that was kind of buried in that little eight character thing.
Nice.
Let's see. What else? This is another Troy is not in this episode. And again, I don't think they explain it. I think this is the last one, though, where she doesn't appear. Could be wrong.
Well, interesting, because she would have sensed deception, potentially? Yeah. Or do they think so much like a computer would Troy even noticed it?
It's a good question. I don't know.
So,
there was a thing that I caught in here that I think also maybe explains something. If this is supposed to air before The Big Goodbye, did either of you catch what Crusher was really excited to go do on Starbase while the computers were being upgraded? She was going to go attend a cybernetics lecture. One of the things that we kind of hit on with data lore, that why is she the one working on the android? She's the doctor. Does she do this stuff on the side or something? And here we have an instance where she's going to go attend a lecture on cybernetics. And so maybe that establishes why she's doing some of this stuff, that she's got, some passing education or something like that. And that would have been more well established had this episode actually aired before data lore like it was supposed to.
Interesting.
Let's see. I think that is about it. That's what I got.
All right. Well, we'll move on to the next episode. The Enterprise transports an elderly Starfleet admiral to negotiate a hostage crisis. When the admiral takes a de-aging drug, he endangers both his life and the mission in Episode 15, Too Short a Season. Nate, what did you think of this
I like
one?
the title of this one.
I think the title is really cool. That might be the best part of this episode. If I'm gonna be really transparent, I had to watch this twice. Because I could not focus on it the first time
Because he
enough.
loved it so much.
He did it so much.
My first note is struggled to keep my attention. This
Yeah,
episode, I think I was being generous when I gave it a 5.
I gave it a
This
5.
episode, this
Really,
episode kind of sucked.
I really want to kind of downgrade that. The problem is, what did I give some of these? I don't know if it's worse than Code of Honor, right? Which I
No,
gave a 4.
it was not worse than Code of Honor.
So I'm gonna stick by my 5, but it's a begrudging 5. I did not.
I don't feel like watching this a second time would have made it any better.
The only reason why I watched it the second time was I had no notes and nothing to talk about, and it was either that or I was gonna show up and say, "You two figure it out," and I'm gonna like go get a drink or something. So I forced myself to watch it again and hated every second of it. It's just a really bad episode.
All right. I'm gonna back y'all up from this because I just finished it today. It was not phenomenal, but having watched it fresh about 3 hours ago, I will say this. I also didn't love it. I gave it a 6. I didn't hate it like you guys did. It was just kind of like, it's got some things of, okay, cool. There's this random miracle drug that only you found, that kind of thing. I don't like inconsistencies in storylines, and that's very inconsistent to me.
I'm gonna
supposedly
jump
loves his
in.
wife, but then he's willing to de-age around her.
Yeah, I want to jump in there. My second note was reverse aging didn't really make sense, poorly explained. Like
It was
that whole
it's
notion
just this
was
random, like, this happens.
How could that be how could that not be straightforward? He
I know.
took some shit and he got younger.
But despite the poorly executed storyline of it had some good themes to it, guys, which I'm surprised you guys didn't like. It's got the concept of, we've got that old Commodore or whatever coming back on again, not knowing, throwing weight around. We've got old vendettas. It does talk a little bit. I mean, our current government and historic governments have done exactly what he did, weapons to one person, and doesn't realize the ramifications of said things in the future, and then animosities because of that. There's just a lot of that kind of stuff.
That was the thing. He gave them to everyone.
So
I don't know. I don't know. I just didn't like it.
I feel like if you took the de-aging piece out of it, it wouldn't piss everyone off quite as much. The storyline wasn't so bad if it wasn't for the de-aging piece, which had no relevance to the entire story, in my opinion.
Honestly, I think my biggest issue with this, I mean, the de-aging didn't really make sense. It was just, it just didn't really make sense. I have another note saying I thought the production quality was fine. I mean, we're seeing that the production quality in Next Gen is way improved from the original series, as we've talked about. I thought the story wasn't even bad. It just really didn't feel like it had much to do with Star Trek. Like, it felt like most of the story was kind of the conflict between this admiral and Greta? I don't even remember what the guy's name was.
I know
I almost said Kodos, but I know that's not right.
It's not Kodos.
But yeah, it just didn't really feel like it had much to do with Star Trek. It was like an unrelated story in the Star Trek universe that just connected because they had the Enterprise transporting this guy. And that just, I think, kind of took me out of it. It was like, okay, our characters are here, but they're not doing much. So I don't know. It was, I even still gave it a 5. I thought it was just mediocre, but just overall the episode really just didn't do it for me, and I don't have much more to add. I didn't really take notes while I was watching it because I struggled to pay attention to it.
I guess like some of the things I struggled with was like Carness doesn't recognize him.
Hmm.
And I go, well, but I would buy that if he got older. But if it's this person that spent so much time negotiating with 40 years ago and he shows up and looks exactly like he did 40 years ago, I think I'm more likely to recognize that person than I would think it's weird for sure. But I,
Didn't he
I don't,
just see them though on the ship?
in
Like if you
darkness,
hadn't seen him like 6 hours
it was,
earlier
it
on
was
view
in darkness.
screen.
He,
No, he saw him on view screen though, without the darkness. No, not on the bridge the first time.
yeah, maybe you're right, but I don't know. It just dumb. I don't know. Like,
I don't
okay,
disagree.
so let's move past that for a second and just talk about movies and the other parts of it. Like, how I get like, hey, just giving him weapons is probably a bad idea. Giving everyone all the same weapons, I'm still struggling to understand why that was a good decision. And I guess he comes around to that conclusion himself after he, plunges the entire planet in 40 more years of civil war. But like, oh, that was my interpretation of the Prime Directive. Cool. So, non-interference means that you just level everyone up rather than just leave them alone, kind of thing, right? And I get that he was trying to save the hostages at the time and all of that stuff, but I know it seems like he's not really that great of an anything, right?
Yeah.
Negotiator, strategist, someone who can see around corners and plan ahead. Like he had no redeeming qualities to him at all. I think that's really all I have. I tried to add more stuff. Sorry, I'm out.
Yeah, I as Abby has said about many original series episodes, I kind of nothinged this one. And it was one again, I thought the story wasn't even necessarily bad. It was just didn't really seem like a Star Trek Next Generation episode. It just it was like,
So I'm
here, we'll throw
looking
these
at the
characters in to make
production
it fit.
notes. So I'm looking at the production notes to see if we're consistent with what others have thought of this. So, and this is based on Wiki, but production was from October of 87 to October 16th of 87, so about 7 days. It was supposed to focus on his character, Clayton Roner's character. The regular cast felt that Roner did not work in the ensemble very well. It's directed by Rob Bowman, who thought the show was too verbose. So more words than actions. So, and he thought that Roner, or everyone pretty much thought that Roner's makeup was horrific during the filming. Like the Benjamin buttoning of it was not good. Well done. They took inspiration for the how the hostages were from a different thing. And then Mark Altman. Who's Mark Altman? Do anyone know?
I don't rec
He was a young college student writing for the TNG student newspaper. I don't know who Mark Altman
know who
is.
that is.
If it even matters. But at any rate, so Raynar though is not. I'm just seeing who this Mark Altman guy is because I feel like it's important. Oh, he wrote a ton of your Deep Space Nine episodes.
There you go.
Apparently.
But
Yeah.
he didn't write this one.
In comics and stuff like that. So
Who are you?
no, apparently he was just visiting the stage at that time.
Because this was so. I mean,
But
the first piece of trivia for this is DC Fontana originally wrote the script, and then Gene Roddenberry's lawyer rewrote it all, and that caused DC Fontana to quit the show in protest and lodge a complaint with the Writers Guild of America. It is also what convinced
No, I didn't say anyone writing.
Oh, okay.
I
Never
was saying director. So Rob Bowen was the director.
got it.
I'm trying to figure out who this Clayton Rohner is. Is
He's an
that who
actor.
played the
It's just
He
an
played
actor who
James-
played
he's
the
the guy who
admiral.
played the admiral,
Yeah,
right? Okay.
Admiral.
So apparently he was supposed to have an even bigger part in this, but the cast
How could he have
didn't
a
like him.
bigger part? He was the entire damn show. He even got to sit in the
It was
captain chair
supposed
and
it was
relegated.
supposed to focus on his character more, but they didn't get along with him. So
Good.
his wheelchair cost the department $10,000.
They
And it was
could just
called the Big Albatross by the property master. Oh, we used a Wrath of Khan phaser though,
saw that. That's
and a
pretty-
phaser from Search from Spock. Hmm.
Yeah, even the trivia for this isn't that interesting.
Yeah. So
I guess the arms for hostages element of
The
the
guy who
story
played
was
so
inspired-
Michael
was inspired by the
Michael
Iran.
Pataki also who played Korax in this. Oh, sorry.
That's right.
I think I'm on a loop. I think I'm delayed.
I was gonna say your thing, I'll say my thing. Aaron will fix it in post.
We have a character from Trouble with Tribbles back. I think that's so someone in here was from Trouble with Tribbles.
Which character?
The actor is Norman. Oh, nope. Pass. Michael Pataki?
Okay. Yeah, he played Karnas.
I don't know who Korax.
Karnas is the main character, the main bad guy.
Korax.
Karnas.
Yeah, so he was in Trouble with Tribbles.
Hilarious.
I'm reading
What role?
Korax on this.
Okay. Interesting.
The same admiral's uniform he wears on this as Q wore. That was the first time it's actually been seen as an admiral's uniform outside of Q wearing it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
This is one of the 3 episodes where Picard sits in the first officer's chair.
Well, I guess when you're not the ranking officer, you don't get to sit in your chair. I guess that makes sense. It just looked weird.
Okay, so here's right. So here's the reception of it. This is director Rob Bowman recalls, quote, "That was a show with a lot of dialogue. I considered it a sit and tell rather than show and tell, and I prefer to show the audience. I believe in the word, but one of your tools is making movies in visual aspects. And just as there is verbal dialogue, there is visual dialogue. One without the other can get very monotonous. But the real treat for me was working with Clayton Rohner. He and I got along together on weekends, and I think that's the most I ever spent with an actor off the clock developing a character. We just decided to do it, and it was pretty much his episode, and all of them reacting to him. It was a solid episode with lots of makeup challenges, special FX, and a wheelchair that never worked." So he thought it was a great episode.
Good for him. I'm really curious to know.
it
how-
almost sounds like he almost even acknowledged that it wasn't a very good episode, but that he had a lot of fun with the guy. Yeah, this episode sucked.
All right. So we're done discussing decrepit admiral needs to be chauvinist one more time and makes bad call.
Yes, please.
Yep.
Got it.
So we'll move on to our last episode this week, in which a planet that was able to cloak itself for thousands of years suddenly reveals itself, with its inhabitants proposing peace. But after initial negotiations, children of the Enterprise are kidnapped due to the infertility of the inhabitants. In episode 16, When the Bough Breaks.
Well, Aaron, what'd you
So-
think?
I thought this episode was better than the last one.
I will agree with you.
I didn't really dislike this episode. I said between 6 or 7, and I was feeling in a positive mood this week, I guess. So I said it was a 7. I thought it was a good episode. Um, yeah, an interesting concept. I rolled my eyes at the part where they were just like, they've depleted their ozone layer, much like Earth of the 21st century. I rolled my eyes at that one, but quickly moved on. I thought
That stuff's gonna go away.
it was a fine episode, and fits with the themes that we've seen of a very positive long-term outlook for humanity and a very negative short-term outlook for humanity.
Yeah.
Given when the show is being made and watched is what, 6 years before the eugenics wars are supposed to start.
Yeah.
So having that negative outlook of and conveying that message of we need to get our shit figured out or else we're not going to make it to the 2400s for next generation to become reality. So I just kind of rolled my eyes at it like I do pretty much every time references like that come up. Um, but yeah, overall I thought it was an interesting episode.
Yeah, I mean, I give it a 6. Um, it certainly was not as bad.
Right.
It does fall into that trope, and I was thinking about it earlier today. That trope that we've seen many times in the original series, which is, random species has been isolated from the rest of the galaxy forever. Bad things happen. You assume at one point they had the best of intentions. Now they've gotten so desperate that any ethics or morality have gone out the window, and they will do anything at any cost to ensure their own survival. In the original series, it was steal people's bodies. That happened often enough. In this, it's just like, we're gonna straight up kidnap your kids. Just, we're gonna take them, and sucks to be you.
And then we're
But
going to send you far, far away.
and then if you still don't listen to us, we're gonna send you even farther. We're gonna make it so that there's no way for you to even get back within your children's lifespan. So I think that, to me, hurt the episode a little bit. I think I could have maybe gone a little higher, but I grow tired of that trope. I think it's
Yeah.
interesting once or twice, but when it's like the 5th or 6th time, it's like, can we not think of something more creative than that? So I landed on 6 for it.
That's fair. I could have gone 6, and like I said, I think I was just feeling in a positive mood.
Yep. So, I will say again, a very Wesley centric episode, right? And I challenged the Wesley haters out there to explain why they hate that character so much. When I think this is another episode of him being a pretty spectacular character.
Yeah.
And doing all the right things.
I loved seeing Picard almost appeal to him like, what the hell am I supposed to do with this kid?
Yeah.
Like looking to Wesley, like, give me some direction because I don't have a clue.
I do not.
Not to support the Wesley haters, but this one doesn't bother me. Even I typically get annoyed by Wesley. Annoyed. I don't hate. Annoyed. And it's usually it's because there is an adult that's probably as smart as he is, but for some reason this child's talking. Like, he's literally sometimes talking over data in some of these episodes. Or like doing a processing thing that data could do better, but we're going to let Wesley do it, even though the world's about to blow up. That kind of stuff bothers me. And I think we talked about last week a little bit that kind of Doogie Howser was a thing in the 80s, right? We want these child prodigy things. It was something we watched. It was a cool war games. These kids are cool. They're smart. We want to focus on that. I get it. This one, it made sense to my brain. Like, of course, he is the best person for the job where we're at. He's leading these kids. He's a whole,
they took him and a bunch of 6-year-olds.
Yeah.
Which goes to why I didn't rank this one as high even as the last one. I didn't like this one. I thought it was boring. and kind of annoying overall. So I actually gave it a 5.
Yep.
So my rationale was this. If they truly were a race where everyone had infertility and they're willing to steal children, they would have stolen them all. I don't think they would have stopped at the 12 or 8 or whatever they did. That doesn't make sense to me. They would have taken them all and they would have passed them all out and made it so no one can find them. Not what they did on this. They're supposedly very intelligent people or whatnot. I don't think they would have just picked one Wesley and the rest. This is a massive starship. We've got tons of children on here. They're not going to be fighting over kids, especially that way. So that made 0 sense. It bothers me that in a society where they have art and things like that, I don't believe they would defend science at the same time. I don't know. That whole premise that they've just forgotten about science entirely doesn't quite make sense to me. I know they're trusting the computer. We're back to this whole computer controls everything's, trope, which we've had, like you said, a million times over. So I'm over that again. So, we're just waiting for Kirk to show up and shoot the computer. It's all we were waiting for in this episode.
He doesn't shoot the computer. He talks it into self-destructing.
I'm sorry. Right. He has to talk the computer into self-destructing, and then all the kids are safe. So those parts were like, they were no's for me. There were some good character developments. I'll give it that. I thought it was clever how Crusher passed Wesley the scanner, and he was right on there with it. And like, okay, I'm going to scan them, let them knowing. I thought that was great. I like how they did that. And I think Will Wheaton does a good job. I don't want to shit on Will Wheaton. I don't want to shit on Wesley. This was the appropriate use of Wesley. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I feel like they're forcing him on us. And that's my issue is where it's like, he's here. Did you see him? Did you see him? He's digging in the wall. Geordi's going to stand back and watch him dig in the wall, the holodeck. But we're going to let the 15-year-old do it. It's fine. So that's where it kind of bothers me. But I'm acknowledging the fact he's a prodigy and we let the prodigy do his thing. That's fine. I like the character development with Picard, though. He's starting to learn how to like children, not like them, be like, I have to interact with them. I can't be angry at them. Yep. We've already seen Riker good with them, right? We got that, what do you call it? The juxtaposition of the two, right? Riker's good with kids, good with small humans, and Picard isn't. So, but we're seeing Picard realizing he can't be both a leader of the ship and not care about the kids. He's running a starship full of children. So I liked that part of it. Otherwise, I was like, I know they're going to get these kids back. I'm not really worried about it. I was never really vested because I didn't think there was a chance these children would not all go back. Maybe this is more like Game of Thrones kind of style. I'd be like, oh my God, which child's going to die? Which kid are they going to leave behind? But in this layout, you knew it wasn't a risk.
So I agree with basically everything you said.
As you should.
As I should. I mean, how could I disagree? I think to your point about taking all the kids and doing a better job of distributing and hiding them and all that. How about genetic diversity? I don't know. You took 5 or whatever it is, and you're going to rebuild your society, because that's either not possible or just got really creepy. Not to mention the fact you took the 16-year-old and the 6-year-olds, and that gets interesting too, right? So that bugged me. There's also a scene right after the children were taken, and so the parents are all in the conference room, and they're Picard's trying to we're gonna go get them, yada yada yada, and the mom of Alexandra has a very emotional moment, understandably, and Crusher just beats her over the ever-loving head with
get it together.
There are risks with having your child on board a ship, and these are the risks that you need to accept, and just berates her. And I was like,
after Crusher has been told you can go see him, we'll let you down there to see him.
And also, how many other episodes did something happen to Wesley and Crusher was beside herself and wanting all the rules to be bent or broken or whatever to save him, but then she has the gall to just berate this poor woman. I hated that. I thought it was terrible. It was poorly written. And then I think the other thing that kind of I understood the we're going to use our powers to knock them so far away that it's going to take 3 days for them to get back to the planet at warp 9. Okay, cool. I get that on the surface, and it's our show of power and we can do way worse, yada, yada, yada. You know what the other thing it did was? Gave them 3 days to plan for how they were going to get the kids back.
That didn't bother me because in this, it was 3 days to try to get those kids to want to stay. Like that was what their goal was, right?
Sure.
Convince the kids that didn't want to go back so they can be like, see, they're happy with us anyways. So I get
that doesn't
that
matter
kind of
if you can force the kids back on the ship, right? So
I really just think that they thought they were so superior.
oh, for sure.
That didn't really matter. There was no concept, no thought in their brain that Enterprise was smarter.
Yeah. Yeah. I did not hate this episode as much as I hated T-shirt of season, but it wasn't that much better.
What's this one called again?
When the Bough Breaks. Aaron, what other thoughts do you have?
I almost want to change my score down to a 6 because it really was just kind of okay. But I thought it was better than a lot of the episodes we've seen so far in season 1. Definitely better than Too Short a Season. Not as good as the binary episode.
No. Are you
but
actually going to change it down to a 6, or are you going to keep a 7?
I'll keep it a 7. I'm
Okay.
feeling nice. I did find it odd that so often it seems they run into these other planets where there are human-like figures or
Mhm.
a human-ish race, but they're not necessarily human. So exactly. So or not Homo sapiens, I guess we might say. Is it just assumed that these people on this wildly advanced planet that's been hidden for thousands of years are Homo sapiens? Because how, like, the leap in logic to say, yeah, we'll just kidnap these kids and that's our new society. I mean, that logic is kind of not there. Uh, at least to explain that. I mean, they could keep the learning, the knowledge going, and the society could be the knowledge that they impart and that wisdom that they have.
Oh,
But and maybe it transcends the biology of it. But that idea seems a little odd.
can I liken it to maybe something else and see if that changes
Although
your
that's
mind?
kind of what the Telosians were trying to do in the cage or in the menagerie.
But I'll take it to a real world example. How about the Quakers? So the Quakers didn't. So the Quakers didn't believe in like sexual contact of any kind. They didn't have children. They didn't do any of that. They spread their religion by having people convert to Quakerism. And the only way they kept going was to continue to get people to become Quakers. They didn't have offspring that they then, taught this religion, this way of life to. And in some ways, that's kind of what this is, right? They can't have their own children. They can't extend their genetic way of life, but they can extend their cultural way of life
The idea
through
can survive.
right. So, but again, it's another one of those episodes where suddenly everyone is very human like, whether they were actually Homo sapien or not. Hey, look,
Yeah.
we saved a boatload of money on makeup
Yeah.
by making them look like us. So, like, I agree and I disagree. Like, I don't think they have to be genetically related in order for them to continue the culture.
And that's excuse me. And that's fine. It was just little bits of it like, okay. There was like no explanation of that though. It was just we needed to take your kids and that's to save our society since we can't have more kids. It's like, okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. So,
Okay. So I found an analysis written, and this is written by Den of Geek. And I really like a synopsis of this. So he actually said that it's actually a pretty well written episode. So they've combined a decent script. Like there wasn't anything icky about the script. No one does anything massively stupid or irrational other than the fact that they're still negotiating with the humans, even though they shouldn't be. If they already have that higher position,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? They shouldn't be negotiating after they took the kids.
Right.
Right. They do a good job of building up the stakes. They lay the premise at the beginning that Riker runs into a child, reminding you that there are children on the Enterprise, right? And that is a thing. And they reveal that children could be unhappy. They use Wesley well, and so on, right? You can almost believe Picard might lose the situation, right? It's a fairly straight storyline. The problem is it doesn't fit within the Star Trek storylines. So this blogger puts it out there that if you saw this in a Stargate episode or even in a Battlestar Galactica episode, you'd be like, okay, cool, whatever. You wouldn't care. It wasn't a terrible episode. It's because it doesn't fit Star Trek that it doesn't distinguish itself. It's a completely throwaway episode with no relevancy, doesn't build anything, doesn't build, doesn't take away, it doesn't do anything as a story, doesn't distinguish itself.
I could see this,
even though it's technically well crafted and well executed.
I could see this being a Battlestar Galactica episode, for two reasons. One, I would believe, seeing children in the show, and two, because the loss of even 6 people in that show is pretty traumatic, considering what's left of their society, right? A Stargate episode, though, like SG-1, I don't know. I don't buy that one. I think that's a poor comparison. I loved SG-1. That was a great show, but I don't see this fitting into that either.
His favorite thing at the end is, to watch or skip. He said it's a tough decision. It's a decent story, but does it make you want to rewatch it? No. He's like, I didn't remember this episode from watching it. The only thing I remembered was that the cloak made them sterile, and that's a bit of classic Star Trek irony for you.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's pretty funny. But honestly, there's more Trekkie-ish episodes worth watching, and we'd skip this one. And I would have to agree with the synopsis on it. Do I think this builds the Star Trek universe? No. Does it barely build some character development for Riker and potentially for Picard? Maybe. Is it give Wesley a little bit more screen time? Yes. But I don't think it does anything for Enterprise. I don't think it does anything for humanity. I don't think it does great things.
Really at all. We lost a cat.
No, it really doesn't. No, I almost lost a finger to a cat. Sorry.
I just see them crawling.
That's my take. I think he's got it nailed it.
Yeah.
Say it again.
I just see the cats crawling all around you, so I figured one of them took a tumble.
It's 2 of them, and they're about 9 weeks, and they've discovered they can almost jump.
Oh, boy.
They're not great at it yet. So they keep missing, and then by missing, they keep landing on me, but that's my head size. It's pretty small.
Yeah.
Here's a phone.
See, I guess I don't entirely agree with some of the points in that synopsis or summary of the episode. I think it did feel like a Star Trek episode, and maybe it was that the episode prior felt very much not like a Star Trek episode, but this one I thought did. I mean, it was self-contained to just this. They're running into some problem they now have to solve. Why they're there, whatever. I mean, they were drawn, they were guided to the planet. In terms of any kind of world building, I do find it. I'm curious when planets like this one became known, because they described it like Atlantis in space, kind of. It was this mythical planet that nobody knew where it was, but it was in this general vicinity, and then all of a sudden it appears. And they felt that they had been kind of drawn there or brought there, not necessarily going there on purpose. So I thought the setup, it wasn't the strongest story. It wasn't the strongest episode, but I thought it felt fine, like an episode of an episodic series. It's not part of a serialized thing where there's even there weren't even really the threads that we've started seeing in other episodes, but this could very easily have been an original series episode where they almost never connected one episode to the next.
Yep.
So in that regard, I think this was definitely a Star Trek episode and didn't really feel otherwise to me. Now, was it great? No, but it was well executed, decently enough written. There wasn't too much that I felt was overly forced or anything like that. And you got to see some fun interactions. You got to see Picard being weird as hell, like being around a kid. Almost he was a bit like it makes me think of Alan Grant in Jurassic Park, how he just
Yeah.
cannot relate, has no idea. And then the other thought I had is they're teaching like 8-year-olds calculus.
Well, yeah, it is the future. I have to fundamentally disagree with you on the concept of what makes an episode feel Star Trekky. So, and I don't know if that's because I watched more series than you. I thought original series felt less Star Trekky than any other series to me because they were, like you said, one-off isolated episodes, whereas I'm used to a grander picture story off of things that I've watched. And so for me, being a seasoned watcher, I thought the previous episode was more Star Trek than this one because that is exactly what the Enterprise is supposed to be doing, exploring and having diplomacy and, negotiations and things like that, which Kirk's Enterprise never did. They shot first, negotiated later, where every other series you'll experience, you'll find negotiation should be the first step. You tease and say that's because he always gives the ship up first, tries to, blow it up or,
He
here,
hasn't
take
done
it.
that in like 10
But
episodes.
We're due
so
for it.
we're on a roll.
I know, we're due.
We probably are. But I mean, they tried to blow it up like 2 episodes ago. So I mean, same concept. It was taken over. Um,
But I have less of a
but
problem
I
with
digress.
Abandoning ship so it explodes and nobody dies is different than surrendering it to an enemy.
Yeah.
Point being, I find this episode, I stand by, like the previous episode felt Star Trekky to me. They were doing a negotiation and there are humans that mess up in the negotiations and they're involved with it. And they do have to have a rescue mission and they're going down a planet. So that felt very Star Trekky. And it felt like it would be part of a bigger universe potentially, right? You could meet one of those characters later on. It could come back again and be an issue. Whereas I don't see anything from here that would impact it further on. So when it comes to Star Trekkiness, I don't know. I guess we have a fundamental difference on what that means.
Well, and that makes
What's your thoughts,
sense.
Nate?
If that evolves over time.
And that makes sense given a completely different experience.
Right. I'm curious if Nate is in the middle of us or he's
I'm in the middle.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Because like I said, this whole episode reminded me of a often reused original series trope. Modified a little bit, right? But this is the body snatchers trope. Just in a different form. And so I don't think it didn't feel like Star Trek to me. I think it's not a very good episode. Still better than Too Short a Season, still better than Code of Honor. Someday I will probably have an episode of this podcast where I don't mention Code of Honor, but it's also going to be a while. It just wasn't that good.
Yeah, it wasn't a special episode by any means, I don't think. And honestly, I would throw this in with much of season 1, probably pretty forgettable.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd be interested to come back and revisit these after I have seen more of it, much like I'd be interested to revisit the original series and see what I think there. But yeah, there wasn't really anything special about this episode.
I'm willing to
had
bet.
my gut feeling on it after I finished watching was better than my gut feeling has been with most of the episodes, and I think most of the episodes I've rated either a 5 or a 6. Most, not all, but
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's where I was on this. I didn't think it was great by any means. I
Got some
thought it
stuff
was
in there, but
slightly
yeah,
better than okay
I would be
until I
willing to bet.
rounded up.
I'd be willing to bet that, obviously we can't do this now because I'm influencing the data set. But if we were to, and at the end of the season, if I were to look at you, Aaron, and say, just name 10 episodes off the top of your head, not the 10 best, not the 10 worst, just name 10 episodes. This wouldn't even make the list
Right.
because it's that
Well,
forgettable, right?
now it will.
Yeah, which is why I can't ask you
But
to do this now because it'll be the
right.
first thing you say.
Yeah, it's
Ever.
it's it's a forgettable episode, and I don't disagree with that in the slightest. Um, but for what it was, for a 45-minute episode with a story that had a beginning and end that logically enough wrapped itself up and was contained and said, "Here you go. We've got a this week's adventure." I didn't think it was that bad.
Nope. The trivia is kind of interesting. Do you want some of the trivia?
Yeah.
So I'm sure you both noticed this, but throughout the episode, the youngest child, Alexandra, played by twins
Oh,
Vanessa and
was she
Jessica
carrying a
Bova,
tribble? A
carries a
tribble
stuffed
toy?
toy, a tribble.
Yep.
Yep,
The last note I wrote was that kid holding a toy tribble?
yep. The entire episode.
Yep.
So do you two remember the children Mason and Tara amongst the group of kids that were kidnapped?
No.
Well, Mason was played by Jeremy Wheaton, and Tara was played by Amy Wheaton. Will Wheaton's.
Siblings?
Yep.
Nice.
Let's see here. Aldea was not the original scripted name for the planet. In the teaser, when Riker is telling everyone all about Aldea, you can see Jonathan Frakes mouthing some other word, and you can clearly hear that all of his lines containing Aldea were subsequently looped. So he had to go back afterwards and re-record all that stuff. Originally, there was a subplot involving the separation of the saucer section with the saucer taken hostage, which I'm sure Picard would have abandoned.
See, it's not just me.
Yeah. Let's see. This is the first episode of the series to not open the teaser with an external visual of the USS Enterprise. Let's see here. Obviously, the title is based on the lullaby Rockabye Baby. I think we all figured that out, right? So it says, in an interview, Vanessa Bova, who's one of the twins playing Alexandra, said, the last scene when I go to give Captain Picard a hug and tell him thank you, I stuffed the animal on his back. I wasn't supposed to do that, and everyone started laughing, and they actually kept it in the scene. So that final scene where it's stuck to his back as he turns away is a blooper.
Okay, I want to go back and watch that now.
So all they're laughing about it is like real genuine. They thought that was funny.
Okay.
And that's the trivia I have for this one.
Yeah, I've got the trivia. I wrote down notes so I was ready if Abbie had stuff for us. What was the regulation that Picard cited?
Oh, I wrote it down. Does it count if I wrote it down though?
I wrote it down. I wasn't coming into this game unprepared.
6.57.
Yep. Now what
You guys
what
have
is
honestly
that
done so poorly in my trivia. I was like, okay, I'm making
what
it too
is
hard
that?
for y'all.
What is that regulation?
Well, it doesn't exist.
There it is. Yep. It doesn't exist. Here's
Hey.
I loved when Data was just like, I don't know.
Yeah, at least he
Starfleet
did
regulation
while they were
6.57, and Picard was just like, me either.
Yeah.
That was great.
What system was Aldea in? Did you write that one down?
I did not.
Epsilon Minos or Minos.
Epsilon Minos? Minos?
Hmm.
Yeah. I like that idea though of this mythical world that was obviously real.
Yep.
And
And
that it
that
was
Riker
just there
knew about.
there was an understanding of it. So it was like, oh yeah, I've heard of that. Which again, then I'm curious when that became common-ish knowledge in that lore.
Yep.
Because aside from this, we don't know about that world as of today. Um, yeah, and did they explain in the episode at all, or was it just kind of their computer or their generator or whatever, how they generated the kind of power or the ability to just in an instant knock the Enterprise that far away?
Not explained at all. Even
It was
into that.
it was likely developed on that same planet where the anti-aging serum that randomly works
Probably.
sometimes was
Right.
created.
I mean, that checks out. And then how would they understand some of these advanced ways that this civilization had? So I don't know. Like
Just older.
in every episode we've seen, there have been points that are questionable or that we can poke fun at. I thought even in spite of those in this one, it was a fine episode.
I like it. I stand by my rating.
But
I
yeah,
mean,
super forgettable. I'm sure in a year or even in a month, if I were to think back, I would not say this episode unless right now I'm committing it to the forefront. No, I will definitely remember this one. But no, it's definitely a forgettable episode. Uh, two fairly or two weaker episodes this week and one that I thought was pretty damn good. But
yep.
yeah, just yeah, another okay to good episode in a generally just okay season. Which again, to be fair, is kind of what I expected.
Yep.
I'm not shocked by any of this, and I'm not hating it, so I'll call that a win.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Well, what's up for next week?
next week we've got three more episodes in season one. We've got Home Soil, Coming of Age, and Heart of Glory. So
That'll be fun.
three more should be good. We will be up through episode 19 next week, which gives us yeah, at this rate, three more weeks in season one, and then we're on to season two.
I'm excited. This
And
is
then
fun.
a few weeks into season two, we then I think get Star Trek 5.
That'll also be fun.
Yeah. So
We'll
yeah,
revisit Kirk and Medan.
even in an okay season, I my understanding is there's still a lot of great stuff to come. I mean, I know I've mentioned it a few times, but I go back to Patrick Stewart's book Making It So, where he says he even talks about how season one was pretty rough. And I think he said they really peaked in seasons like four and five.
Yeah.
So but I would imagine season two will build off of season one and not
There,
go the trajectory of the original series where each season got progressively worse.
there are great episodes in season two, and season two is definitely better than season one.
Yeah.
Um, Not without its stinkers. There are some stinkers, not gonna lie. But I think we're gonna find at least we're gonna find one code of honor in every season just because they can't all
Yeah.
be good, as we've talked about.
Right.
Wait till Greg gets here.
Well, I'm I had to tell
So
I had to tell Chat GPT to ignore his scores in the sheet because it was throwing off all our averages.
so I mean, yeah, I think his nines are effectively a five or less.
Yeah. His tens are like an 8.
Yep. Yeah.
You should just tell him to do only tens, but 10.1 through 10.10.
Yeah.
And then
Sure. We'll go with that.
Yeah.
cool. All right, we can try bed early tonight,
All right.
kids.
Yeah.
Yep. I love it.
Cool
Let's do
beans.
it.
All right.
Good
Okay,
night.
talk to you later.
Another fun episode, and yeah, we'll talk later.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye. Well, there you go. I know I've talked about it many times before and will probably continue, but I love the show Parks and Recreation. I also love podcasts and books, well, kinda like this one, breaking down our favorite shows. So a comment I heard on the Parks and Recollection podcast resonated with me. I don't recall the exact quote, but as I said in the episode, it was something like, if you think something is good or great, you have no idea how great it really is. I hedge my ratings constantly, acknowledging how impressive the show is and the feat they pulled off with each and every episode. It is truly remarkable. To tell a coherent story, much less make it entertaining, and on top of that hit specific timing for advertiser breaks, the fact that some of the episodes are even just okay with those parameters is truly amazing. 26 episodes in one season, and the season was what, 9 months long? If we spread it even over a full year, that's a complete episode every 2 weeks. Of course, I'm sure they were able to batch process certain tasks, but that probably makes it even more impressive if you think about it. I have really enjoyed breaking down this show, deconstructing it to understand what works, what doesn't, and maybe even uncover why certain things work. But underneath it all is a great appreciation for what this show accomplished. And we're only halfway through season 1, before they, presumably, really figure out what the show even is. It would be interesting to know what a series like Next Generation would be like in the era of streaming. But I suppose that might come with its own constraints. Or maybe even greater pressure since some of those guardrails aren't there. Maybe the strict times for advertising breaks give the series the structure it needed. I guess I hadn't even thought about it that way before right now. Regardless, this is all just a long way to say how truly impressed I am with what they did with this series. I'm excited to see where they go from here. And I think that's probably as good a spot as any to call it for this week. If you're watching along with us, next time we will discuss Home Soil, Coming of Age, and Heart of Glory. As always, I want to thank you for spending your time listening to our conversations about Star Trek. If you enjoy what we're doing, please do us a favor and share with a friend. Also, leave us a rating and a review on your favorite podcast app. You can find us on X at Baldly Go Podcast and to Baldly Go Podcast on Facebook. You can also find me at aaronemery.net. For Abbie and Nate, this is Aaron reminding you to never give up, never surrender. Like so many times, I win Star Trek.